I read everything that I could. I played a whole bunch of games, as I know you did. People were not hyped for Arceus Duraludon. Now, if we take a bit of a look at their achievements, just to remind ourselves, Tord, nice and simple, all 4 internationals.
Yep, Mr. Worldwide has won in every region around the globe and is back at the EUIC, trying to get another victory under his belt with this amazing Gardevoir EX archetype. You can see he's chilled out. He knows he's been here before. He's just going to stick to his game plan, try and weave in some cheeky attackers. I'm sure they've seen deck lists, they've scouted, they've most likely come up with game plans with friends and just theory crafting together to see how he can overcome this one. Because I feel like this might be his most difficult finals yet, to be honest with you. This Alolan Vulpix seems to have a ton of coverage, especially with combined the 4 copies of Lost City that Alex has in the deck list. He can pick apart the only valid attackers, and then Tord would have no option to take any more prizes.
Yeah, that is going to be the story. Of course, we saw Alex's achievements there as well, all of those finals. Let's be clear, right? If you're making the finals of multiple regionals, you are a phenomenal top-tier player. You know, regional championships nowadays, they are hard. There are a huge amount of players, there are a huge amount of good players. Making the finals of regionals consistently is something that very, very few players can do. So, yes, we all, we talk about Tord winning all these internationals, but let's not sleep on Alex consistently making these regionals finals, having these deep runs. That is very important. Looks like Tord started his one-off Mew again.
Yeah, and Battle VIP Pass.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Tord was worrying about the opening hand. No need to worry this time. It looked exceptional.
So it looks like the prizes are going to be coming down now. If we have a look at Alex, we've got Boss's Orders, Schemanske, neither part of the Alolan Vulpix, which is huge there. And Tord, he's got a couple of parts of the line, but that Gardevoir could be a bit of a pain. It is a one-of, that is the only one he's got.
Yep, and that can be a huge attacker into V-Star Pokemon. Not having to use your Zacian, he does play 2 copies, but that gives up more prize cards, of course, and Shining Arcana is another great way to draw cards as well to keep in mind. But it looks like we're getting underway here. We see the fist bump, and we are into our Masters TCG Finals.
Absolutely, it does look like Tord is going to be going first. We've got a Battle VIP Pass. There is an energy in hand if he wants to grab Radiant Greninja, draw some extra cards with that. And we have seen Tord do that turn 1 quite a bit here. And this start could be huge for Tord, because Alolan Vulpix V has 190 HP. Zacian actually can get free energy going into turn 2 pretty consistently, but it doesn't hit enough. With free energy, it only hits 150. That's not going to get the KO. And it's not an easy way to pull it off. Tord's best bet to get the early KO on a Alolan Vulpix V is actually the Gardevoir EX, that for free energy will hit 190. And there is a chance here. If Tord can get the turn 2 Gardevoir EX with free energy, bearing in mind its ability will accelerate energy from the discard to itself, he could then potentially gust and KO the Alolan Vulpix. Alex plays a 1-1 line with no recovery. If Tord can get an early KO, that could be huge.
We see the Battle VIP Pass grabbing a Ralts as well as a Radiant Greninja. As we know, multiple Psychic Energy already in the hand. So Tord will be seeing a number of additional cards here. Also has that Memory Skip Ralts in hand, but probably can't as liberally play this down. So it's actually a key piece to his strategy here to get around the Vulpix if, as you say, Ross, that early aggressive strategy doesn't come out.
Yeah, and if I'm Tord, that's basically plan A and plan B. Plan A is, I've got Luminion, I've got a Boss's Orders. The second that Vulpix hits the bench, I want to use Luminion, Boss's Orders, KO it, it's gone, it's not coming back. Plan B is using that Routes of Memory Skip to try and turn it off for a turn, and then maybe get a turn to attack. But all Alex would need to do is switch, get back in the active, or KO with something else, using that, Lost City to pop it in the Lost Zone, and then it's gone for the rest of the game. So both players have options here. Neither of them are perfect, and it is going to be a back and forth. These first few turns will be crucial. Good news for Tord, there's another Routes coming out.
His hand is getting better and better. The Radiant Greninja got this level ball as well as a Zacian V. He's vibing right now. He's vibing as he shuffles, just bopping around, enjoying himself out there, and why not?
I really do think there is a difference when you've been here before. That stream table, it's sneaky big. It's a very big table. You've got your headphones on with your white noise coming in, or music sometimes, depending on what tournament it is, to kind of make sure they basically can't hit us, because that would be a little bit of an advantage. And just, it is a different environment. It is not the usual way you tend to play Pokemon cards. So having that experience playing under what is quite stressful conditions, and obviously final of a international is quite a big thing, I do think gives a pretty big advantage to Tord. Just, you see how relaxed he is.
And spying even more ball search. Is it going to be the Fog Crystal or the Level Ball? He will be able to bench at least one more Ralts here, but it's whether or not he wants to keep the level ball in hand for next turn to simply evolve up into Curliers, or could insta-play this level ball for his final teleportation burst Ralts, and then just put those 3 into play, knowing that he could evolve a couple Curlier next turn with the draws that he already has available.
Yeah, it's not a bad plan, of course. It is a Curlier you're going for. That is the goal. You want to make sure you've got enough Curlier, and we've all been there where you play too many routes, and then all of a sudden you don't have any access to Curlier. You don't have the level balls. You've used them to get routes, and especially, you're not expecting a turn 1 KO from Alex. Alex's deck doesn't do giant turn 1 pressure. It is a bit more of a setup deck. So we do see Tord here just using that ability on the Zacian, using that roar of the sword, getting another energy, and it is ready to attack next turn, but it will not do enough to KO a Vulpix yet.
So often we've seen Tord be aggressive with the Zacian V. He plays 2 copies. That's, you know, over conventional wisdom where you oftentimes saw 1. This additional copy just allows Tord to see it earlier and use it more aggressively. That Storm Slash is one of the best ways you can put pressure on immediately in the game.
It absolutely is. We see an early Chorus's experiment from Alex here. You get to look at 5 cards. 3 go in your hand, 2 go in the Lost Zone. It's not a Lost Zone deck, so cards in the Lost Zone aren't doing you any favors. This is just an aggressive supporter, lets you see a lot of cards without having to ruin your hand at all. It is just drawing, and there's already a Lost City in Alex's hand.
Yeah, that's the debate here. Is it going to go over this energy card, perhaps? No, I'm going to keep the boss's orders. Getting a little bit feisty in here, Alex, wanting to pick off certain key Pokemon, perhaps, to map a route to victory.
And as we said, there is a full 4 copies of Lost City, so yes, 1 has hit the Lost Zone nice and early, but it doesn't really matter. He should still have access to them as you go. Alex is not going to need Lost City turn after turn. There's going to be 1 or 2 key KOs. That's when he's going to need the Lost City.
Alex also going to take a chance to look through their own prize cards. Nothing too worrying in there, so that's good news. Obviously wants to check that 1-1 Alolan Vulpix line. But yeah, his opening is slightly vulnerable, especially with how strong Tord's was in the opening stages. Alex has got the switch, though, so can Trinity Charge this turn and start powering up Drapion. Let's not forget that this is a very relevant attacker with its dark typing. It can be a threat in this matchup.
Absolutely. The Gardevoir EX and all of those, you know, nowadays psychic Pokemon are weak to darkness type, so it's not really your ideal starter. Generally speaking, you want to be accelerating that energy onto something like a Duraludon or an Alolan Vulpix, but this is not too bad at all. It's a very nice attacker, and this is kind of like free. What you're really going for is your turn 2 Trinity Nova doing 200 and accelerating free energy. The turn 1 Trinity Charge, you don't see it all that often. It's quite hard to be able to get it consistently, but going second and getting this is a bonus on turn 1. This is really what you want to do turn 2. Getting a turn 1 is just wonderful.
As we pass things over back to Tord with this Trinity Charge, Alex wasn't able to develop early Vulpix, and I think that's already a bit of a worry. The earlier you weave this in, the better. So it's a bit of a miss for Alex. Let's see how Tord can sort of pounce on this. If you can deny Starbirth from Alex with only 1 Arceus that's currently in the active position and vulnerable, you could really stifle Alex's options throughout the game.
Yeah, a big KO here on Arceus would potentially be absolutely game-breaking. And yeah, like you said with that Alolan Vulpix, if you get a couple extra turns, you can build up an attacker, and we know that Tord is going to be waiting. The second that Alolan Vulpix hits the bench, we're going to see boss's orders, even if you have to go and use a boss Illuminion to go and grab it.
Yeah.
So that is going to be absolutely huge. Of course, that Mew in the active is able to use Mysterious Tail, go and grab yourself an item card. And now Tord's just using that level ball. Gee whiz, I wonder what he's going to go for.
Yeah, I think already has Curlier in hand, but wants to use the level ball first just to thin. Ideally, we see a rare candy combo, and Mew might actually help get there. Of course, it can cherry pick an item card in the top 6. So Tord might look to use 1 refinement, possibly even the Greninja before the Mew, giving himself the best chance to hit the combination of Ultra Ball and rare candy.
Yeah, and that would be absolutely huge here. We do have an energy in the discard pile that could be accelerated with Gardevoir EX if it were to come out. And it's kind of awkward. The Zacian is great for early game pressure on small Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's not great for taking out Pokemon V. 3 energy, you hit 150. 4 energy, you hit 180. It would actually take 6 energy, if I'm reading this correctly, to get the KO. Yeah, it would be 6 energy, because 5 would be 210.
Yeah.
So what you really want to do here is actually try and power up a Gardevoir EX if you can get it rolling here. Oh my goodness, he actually just used concealed cards and he hit the Red-handed God of War.
My goodness, we've just talked about it as the ideal situation. Now Tord has to figure out, how do I maximize this? Can I draw into any extra psychic energy? Has Fog Crystal, so could refine away one additional psychic energy.
Yeah, now as it stands now, Tord needs to get to 3, and actually, this is going to be it. There's already 2 in the discard, so he could go for the energy and just manually attach it, or he could discard it with refinement and accelerate it with the ability here. That would also be an option. Tord is going to get 3 energy onto his Gardevoir. Will he also, is there energy in hand? He's going to need one to get the Mew out the active.
Well, he can also just whack it on the Mew, then retreat back out and whack it on something else. That's always a play with the Gardevoir EX.
Yeah, but see, Gardevoir EX hits 190. It's great against Alolan Vulpix. It's not great against Arceus.
We haven't seen the turn attachment, though, so if a refinement gets Tord into a Psychic Energy, he could also weave in a turn attachment here, and the Zacian could get there.
Well, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, can we actually pile enough energy on to do it?
Yeah, we whiffed from this refinement. So now Tord has the option of possibly a pressure poke with Zacian, but it won't be getting that knockout, crucially.
No, and annoyingly...
Unless we see Fog Crystal here.
Yeah, Fog Crystal would be huge. And we do see Fog Crystal!
It's the take, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and there's not much of a debate here. Oh, that is absolutely huge. And I said it's going to take...
He's nodding. Yep, this is what I wanted.
I mean, we said it's going to take 6 energy to actually get up there. I suggested that wasn't that likely, and Tord's like, I've got this, it's fine. I can get 6 energy on a Zacian, and that is kind of big. And one thing which is also kind of big, Zacian is not weak to Drapion. It is, essentially, it's a fairy Pokemon, which means it comes into the card game as a psychic Pokemon weak to metal. So Drapion can do a decent amount of damage. Drapion, I don't think, is going to be able to get a KO here.
Well, Zacian's going to get pretty damaged, I think, from the Gardevoir EX, so I don't think that's as big of an issue.
Yeah, you're right. Gardevoir damages.
What I'm more worried about is that Alex won't have much of a board outside of this Drapion, and going lone Drapion is not the best strategy here. He's going to need a little bit more than that. I think the most crucial thing here is not only Tord taking prizes, but denying the Arceus V-Star power and just limiting Alex to a much worse hand next turn. So everything you need, literally Tord is on full cylinders. And what an exceptional turn 2 this is.
Oh, can you imagine if Gardevoir didn't damage when you accelerate the energy? That would make it a whole lot better. But yes, you're right. There's going to be, I think, 5 energy, which are being accelerated, 4 energy from the discard pile, and 2 damage counters means 8 damage counters. So yes, it is going to be well in range of the Drapion. But like you say, it's not really about whether it gets KO'd or not, because you're taking away the Starbirth. There is no Arceus V on the field. That means that Alex will not be using Starbirth for at least 2 turns yet. And frankly, that Drapion, sure, is going to get a nice KO here, but it's not exactly the kind of Pokemon you're going to run through the rest of the game with. That's not going to last much longer, because Tord's got the EX on board. There's going to be a whole mess of energy in the discard pile. Tord is going to be able to reload Zacian pretty easily.
And it's just a judge from Alex after this huge knockout. So Drapion's ready to respond. But where do we go from here? This is 4 massive cards in game 1 here. Alex just shaking his head. He knows that this is not great odds. Judge is great as a disruptive option once you've got set up, once you've already got your Arceus V-Star into play. This situation is not where we're at right now. Alex is in panic mode and really hoping that they can find Ball Search off these 4 cards.
Yeah, of course, Battle VIP Pass is not on the board because that is not turn 1 anymore. You're going to need some Pokemon, but even then, you're going to get the KO. But it's kind of, can you get a couple of basics this turn, maybe evolve them next turn?
Nest Ball and Ultra Ball. He might go down to 0 card hand here just to get, or do you go for Arceus and keep Ultra Ball in hand?
You've got to do that. I don't like it, to be
Vulpix
clear.
It could be too late for Vulpix, though.
Vulpix isn't terribly
Do you really
relevant.
put yourself into top deck mode? Also, he may have to start looking at his prize cards to see if he can have a supporter in there. There's a Judge and Professor's Research in prizes. Does he ever take a hedge here? He's taking 2 prizes.
No, I think you've got to save the Ultra Ball for the V-Star, because the problem is, if you Ultra Ball, you go into top deck mode, and that's just way too risky. If you keep the Ultra Ball, you guarantee the Arceus V-Star with that Starbirth ability next turn.
Yep.
So yeah, we do see
Alex
the KO
going conservative.
Here.
I'm thinking like a gamer right now. I'm thinking like I don't have that much money on the line.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I play far too aggressively and far too risky generally just because that's a fun way to play the game.
Right.
But in the finals of an international, no, I'm not going down to a 0 card hand when I could guarantee Starbirth next turn. It would be fun. And if you rip the Professor's Research off top, it's the best feeling in the world. It's not likely, though.
So Tord is likely going to be fishing once again for a Gust play here. I feel like just denying that Starbirth once again is still your best route, because you know that Drapion is so vulnerable anyway. You can knock that out with so many things, and even though this Arceus has been damaged, it seems really helpful to just get this off the board, keep Alex on that lower hand size, and just keep control of this board. Tord is the one that always wants to be drawing cards, and you know what? It's winning me over now as well.
Yeah, he's drawing a lot of cards, he's winning. Of course, he could here. Now, it looks like he's eyeing up another rolls. Could go for the Zacian. Now, that's what I'm thinking here, because you can immediately reload the Zacian. You can get the KO on the Drapion very, very easily. And then you're kind of forcing Alex to have V-Star. No, but he can't even attack next turn because there's no energy. So you know you're fine next turn. And honestly, if Tord attacks with Zacian here, takes out the Drapion, is Alex even going to have enough time to do anything? I mean, you kind of have to throw a single prize Pokemon in the active and kind of hope.
You'd have to Starbirth for Raihan would be your only play to get a response on the damaged Zacian at that point. As we see a clean 7 for Tord. Nice. He's happy just refreshing and cycling deeper into this deck. This 2-prize card knockout simply allows Tord to race. And I don't think he even has to be afraid of Vulpix at this stage, because there's enough prizes on board already that you can simply ignore it if ever it comes into play. It's going to be a non-factor in this game 1 because of how quick Tord's start was.
Yeah, there's 4 prizes left to be taken. There's 4 prizes worth of Pokemon V on the board. So Tord no longer worried about that Alolan Vulpix. And that's the thing about these counters. These counters like Alolan Vulpix are great when they work, but if you're playing a 1-1 line, it is far from guaranteed that you're going to be able to get it every single game. I mean, what happens if we go to game 2 and either the V or the V-Star is prized?
Alex is scooped.
Yeah,
he
there
knows
we go.
That he is so far behind. I think just seeing the additional attacker of the Gardevoir was enough for Alex to say, yep, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, Tord takes the win there, goes up 1-0, and is in prime position to become a 5-time international champion, which just feels weird saying it out loud, quite frankly. That is just a ridiculous amount of wins. And we saw here, and this is, I think, the big difference I'm seeing between Tord's list and so many other lists of Gardevoir. Tord, we've had him on stream a few times, can be the aggressor. It is a list which is built to go quickly, and especially with that Zacian. I mean, it was a 6-energy Zacian on turn 2. You're not supposed to get a 6-energy Zacian on turn 2.
Yeah, we talk about the intricacies of this matchup and what Alex can do and how many hurdles he can throw up, but how about just the Zacian swinging quick? That completely changes the game, that tempo, the Arceus being wiped off the board so early, just allowed Tord to really keep control of the board the entire time and just win a pretty standard prize race.
And it's kind of interesting because when Sword and Shield base came out, we of course had Zacian just running around ruling the format, and now we've gone to Scarlet and Violet base, and Zacian's running around. And it's got different Zacian, different set, different typing even.
Yep, still slicing.
Yeah, Zacian is still here and still good, and poor Zamazenta's just kind of sitting there like, when's it my turn?
It's really trying, you know. But yeah, Zacian in the limelight once again with Tord. 1 game up, plenty of time left in these finals with this pretty hasty concession from Alex. Didn't really get into the game, so you got to think that you write this one off and hope that you get a better start this time, hoping for multiple Arceus to prevent yourself, and of course you're going first, so you get into a V-Star and have a bigger threshold of hit points for Tord to overcome.
Yeah, and that's going first in this matchup is absolutely huge, because it means, you know, Tord's not getting a turn 1 attack. It's not happening. So it means that you can get your evolution into your V-Stars like your Arceus, your Duraludon, your Vulpix, etc. before Tord actually has a chance to attack. We do see Tord's only boss's orders in the prizes, though. That one could be very big. Tord only plays 1, and if he's going to be going after that Alolan Vulpix early, it's not going to be there.
I think Alex's hand is far better this time. Gets to go first, leads out that Arceus V, and is already looking at Nest Ball to search out. There it is, the Alolan Vulpix V. This is what he wants to get into the mix as early as possible because it shuts down a lot of Tord's deck.
Yeah, it really leaves Tord attacking with Cresselia, which, as we've mentioned, is not a great attacker, or the memory skip routes to try and turn it off for a turn, and that's basically it. You know, Cresselia's got a whopping free energy 110, but that's not a one-hit KO, and we know Alex plays 4 copies of Lost City, so the theory here is Cresselia attacks once, and then boom, it's in the Lost City.
And not even the memory skip is foolproof, because Alex can simply find Rope or Switch, and then pay retreat into something else and bring the Vulpix straight back, and then you've ignored the effect of the memory skip. So even that's not a foolproof strategy for Tord, as we do pass things over. Really great start for Alex this time around, but Tord, a game up with a double VIP. How many times have we said it? Tord just draws great with this deck.
Yeah, Tord is having the luck of the draw here very nicely. Double. I mean, VIP pass turn 1 is amazing. You play 4 of them because you want to maximize your chance of hitting it turn 1. You don't really expect to hit more than 1. The goal is you play 4, you hit 1, but it's so good hitting 1 of these on turn 1 that it is legitimately worth 4 spaces in your deck. Hitting 2 of them on turn 1, it happens, and when it does, it is absurd. And to be fair, Alex, he got his Pokemon and he got an energy on Arceus. That is everything Alex could have wanted from his turn 1. So Tord here, you know, starting off with his Battle VIP pass going, you know what? I think I might be doing all right here as well. And like we saw in game 1, we are not going to see the memory skip routes hit the bench. It is going to be the teleportation burst routes. They are going to be the ones that are played until it is absolutely time.
And I want to see Alex's facial reaction when we see this second Battle VIP pass, because you've got to be sat there nervously. You're already a little bit upset that you've seen the first one, but now comes another one.
Yeah, you just saw Tord win game 1, and now you're seeing him double Battle VIP pass on turn 2. So we're going to get a minimum of 3 routes here. There is an argument to put the 4th routes out and just really go for the Curlier. But then, of course, that memory skip routes is kind of vulnerable. But instead, we have got things like the Mew, like the Greninja, which can then be going and getting extra cards. We know Tord isn't attacking, so he can afford to use his energy for the turn to retreat Manaphy, whack Mew active, go from there.
Yeah, and Zacian far less effective when you're not able to be the aggressor. It's much better at getting that hit in. As we saw, Tord just had access to so many Psychic. This time his hand doesn't have any Psych Energy, I believe, so that's going to sit around in the deck for a little while, maybe save it for later with a Sky Seal Stone combo. Let's not forget, that's another way that Tord can uptrade into all these V-Star Pokemon.
Yeah, getting an extra prize of a V-Star Pokemon is usually a very good thing. So we do see the 3rd routes, and we do see the Radiant Greninja. Tord basically saying, look, this memory skip route is too important. I'm saving it for now. We'll deal with that later. Starting to Manaphy, actually kind of annoying, because it doesn't do much in this matchup and it's taking up a bench space. But honestly, Tord could have done with a bit of energy that turn, but getting Treble routes turn 1, it's hard to argue too much.
Yeah, his hand is amazing for next turn as well. Already holding on to Candy, Gardevoir, and Levelable and Curlier, so we'll be drawing a number of cards and getting into their stage 2.
Oh, he's hit it. Sorry, Joe. He's hit the V-Star off of the Chorus's experiment. He had Judge and he had Chorus, and he needed the V-Star.
Right.
And he chose to go for the Chorus, and he managed to hit it nicely, so that was huge.
Yeah, wise from Alex here. Does have the Switch in hand, so may debate even going for Switch Escape Rope this turn with Starbirth, but may just be happy enough swing in with the Trinity Nova. Not much else to do this turn. Keep that V-Star power for later and start powering up this Alolan Vulpix V on the bench, knowing that possibly you could Starbirth for it next turn.
And this is a weird one, because when I first saw Arceus, I was like, oh, you can use it in the early game if you're not that set up, or you can save it for the late game to get your last couple pieces you need. And the player base has told us very clearly, no, you Starbirth immediately. You get into Arceus, you Starbirth, that's how you use it. It's very rare to see a player have a good enough setup that they get the Arceus V-Star and choose not to Starbirth. But actually, Alex doesn't need it. He's got the Pokemon V he wants on the bench. He's got the attack off. He's gone up by a prize. And now he's got that Starbirth staying there, you know, for next turn or whenever he needs it. This is nice.
Tord grabbing some coins, because we've got plenty of abilities to use this turn. Picks up the Psych Energy off the top of the deck. Seeing more and more Psych Energy come to the hand is exactly what he wants. That's always the mission of this archetype. We're going to see the first evolution into the Refinement Curlier. Just like old times with Tord, getting rid of 1, getting 2. It's a bargain.
Yeah, it's always nice when you can draw those extra cards. It is literally just Zoroark's trade that, and we saw Tord use this over and over again. We saw Zoroark Golisopod, we saw Zoroark Gardevoir. Now it's all just in one deck, Gardevoir and Gardevoir all together doing what Gardevoir and Zoroark needed to work together to do. So we have an Ultra Ball in hand, which could potentially go to another Curlier for another refinement if we
level
wish.
Ball too.
Oh, and a level ball. Oh, we've got Candy Ultra Ball in hand, so I don't think that. Oh, well, that's Gardevoir in
Candy
hand.
He's got everything he needs.
Oh my, he has got a very good hand turn too.
It's going to be another Curlier. I think then you go Candy Gardevoir into the Judge. It seems pretty reasonable. I know there's still the Starbirth available for Alex, but it still feels like good to refresh your own hand, because I think from there he'd only have Pal Pad. But yeah, everything you really need, and there's no pressure really from Alex in terms of one-hit KO potential. So you could even get a cheeky hit in with Gardevoir EX here.
Oh, I like everything about that. This is very, very nice. We're not going to see the giant Zacian like we saw turn 1. That is not on the cards. That is not realistic. But we absolutely could see a free energy Gardevoir EX. And you're right. There's no huge pressure coming down here. However, what we could see is an attack from Alolan Vulpix V-Star next turn. And actually, this would be the perfect turn to go and get Boss's orders and KO the Alolan Vulpix. Unfortunately, that is not an option.
I know.
But he did have the Ultra Ball to potentially go and get the... In fact, he used Luminion. So...
Boss prized.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if the boss wasn't prized, I actually think Tord could have gusted and KO'd the Alolan Vulpix. So the boss being prized in this game is actually huge.
It's completely changed this game. It could have been Tord once again picking apart Alex's biggest threat. That Alolan Vulpix V, so vulnerable, 190 hit points. It's so low for a V. And we've seen this Luminion over and over again from Tord being fantastic in his deck, allowing him to just continually draw an insane amount of cards. This time around, it's going to have to be the Professor's Research.
For a full 7, after Candy Gardevoir evolved to Curly, puts his Research for 7. I mean, that is a dream. Tord is drawing brilliantly here, but, you know, and there are choices to be made. Yes, Tord's only Boss's Orders was prized, but because of everything else he needed to fit in the deck, he had to make that choice of only playing one Boss's Orders, and that has come back to hurt him. But again, we got plenty of time. It's game 2. Tord will be going first in game 3. We are a while away from the end of this series yet.
And Tord's drawn into a bunch of supporter cards with that extra refinement and the research itself. I think it's a pretty routine swing your energies onto your Gardevoir EX and get a hit in here. It's a pretty tanky Pokemon even when you damage it for 60 with your own ability.
Yeah, there's nothing really that's going to come and KO the Gardevoir, but Alex here, you've got to think, is going to be looking for the Alolan Vulpix and Energy and a pivot card. Bearing in mind, 2 of them can just be gotten with Starbirth anyway, and, there's at least an Energy in hand. So, yeah, I mean, we've got the Alolan Vulpix here, because you can just get the V-Star and the Switch from Starbirth.
Yeah, this is where we see Alex's plan finally come to fruition. Has 2 of those pieces and can judge after Tord's just gone Research Refinement. So it's looking really good for Alex here. This is where his trap is starting to be laid.
Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. You could even here, you know, switch into Alolan Vulpix, play the Judge, hope to hit the Alolan Vulpix V-Star off of the Judge, and then, he's actually choosing to Judge before switching. Of course, can just manually retreat the Arceus.
Yeah, I really like this because one of your ways of being stopped is, of course, that Ralts. So keeping your option to switch or to rope and get in and out of the active with your Alolan Vulpix can completely nullify the use of Memory Skip.
Yeah, this is quite nice. You need to be able to get around that, so saving all your switching cards for later is good. And here, this is kind of cool, because if you draw the Alolan Vulpix off the Judge, yay, handy bonus. If you don't, you can Starbirth and guarantee it anyway. So what 4 cards? He's actually hit the Ultra Ball. And, I mean, we've got an Arceus and a Metal Energy that we maybe don't really need here. So, or we know we are just going to V-Star, so maybe those resources are a bit too good to be thrown away just yet.
Yep, it is going to be the Alolan Vulpix V-Star coming to the top, as well as an Escape Rope. Also eyeing up the Choice Belt. That's certainly an interesting one. It allows you to be a little bit more aggressive with your Alolan Vulpix V. We see the Luminion on towards bench. So it could be something that Alex spies earlier on to really just race Tord as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so he hasn't gone and got the Alolan Vulpix, but of course he's got the Ultra Ball in hand, so he is going to Ultra Ball for it. Just went Starbirth first, and I kind of like going Starbirth first because it lets you have a good look at your deck, have a bit of a think, knowing that you can grab it or Ultra Ball for it later. But we see the Choice Belt and the Escape Rope, and you've...
Interesting. Thinking about roping now, I feel like this is such an important card to hold on to in case you do get hit with that Memory Skip. But Alex just saying, I want to race as quickly as possible. Has the belt if Tord wants to bring the fish into the active position. So just making sure he's taking as many prizes as possible this turn.
And there comes down the Ultra Ball, which is inevitably going to be for this Alolan Vulpix V-Star. And like you say, he's got the belt. Generally, you're hitting 160. You're unfortunately not quite there. However, but as soon as you add in the belt, you are going to be absolutely rolling here. I'm just double checking. It is 160 on the Alolan Vulpix. It is 160. I was correct. So yeah, you do need the belt to hit the 170 Luminion. Well, the Lumion's so small, I'm just used to one hitting it.
I'm just laughing at Tord's showmanship, looking at that Vulpix. What does this card do? This really made the finals? Well, yep, this is Alex's best line of defense against the Gardevoir EX matchup. And we're going to see this Snow Mirage knocking out Luminion, taking 2 prizes. Let's see how Tord can respond. And spoilers, it's going to be looking for a Ralts and hoping for the best.
Yeah, that memory skip Ralts is going to be the one. And then it's just a case of, can you hold it for a turn? That is the goal here. Now, Tord hasn't taken any prizes, unfortunately. So, yes, there are 4 prizes worth of other Pokemon on the field, but that is not going to do it. If it comes down to it, Alex is literally just going to go solo Vulpix here. So we do see a Radiant Greninja concealing some cards, drawing a couple of cards.
That's so interesting. Look at this. Just picked up the Roxanne now. That's certainly going to be on Tord's mind. Is that the best way? Did Alex play both those cards they Starburst for, or was he holding on to another piece, possibly that switch out or something similar? Tord also has to be really worried about the prize race. Alex can just knock out 2 things at this point. So using this memory skip, if it doesn't sort of end up working out, or even just trying to use it, do you end up just going too far behind in the race at this point?
You have to, though. I don't think there's any real other option.
The other option is go for other prizes and kind of ignore the Vulpix for this turn and try and catch him on another turn later.
Yeah, just hope Alex benches something else. Of course, there is a very weird way round where you take the other prizes, hope that Alex goes just a Alolan Vulpix, and then your memory skip. Yeah. So there's nothing to switch into or out of it to kind of force him to take the memory skip, and hope you haven't given up too many prizes in the meantime. Yeah. It's not a great way round. But if Tord can hit some escape rope and, then hit the boss's orders off the prizes, that would potentially be a way to do it. Yeah. Again, that boss's orders in the prizes just really debilitating. There we go. For Tord, as we're seeing the energy attachment perhaps onto the active Pokemon. This might just be pre-Roxanne here. Yeah, that Roxanne would put Alex down to a very small hand size, which would be very nice. Here comes that Roxanne, and that is a card we've seen played in a lot of decks, ever since it first came around, putting your opponent down to a very small hand. While you get to keep a considerably larger hand, you can only use it if your opponent's got 3 or fewer prize cards remaining. Alex has gone down to 3, but essentially you get a new hand of 6, and they get a new hand of 2 or 3 by the time they draw one to start their turn. So you get a huge advantage over them. And, if you're Tord, you're probably thinking, well, if he played an escape rope, surely he's got to have another switching card in hand, or he would have saved the rope. Because Tord knows that Alex knows about memory skip. And I'm not really sure what window of opportunity Tord's waiting for with this memory skip. Was he trying to get it alongside the Temple of Sinnoh, perhaps? So it's not just an easy retreat and hit with Arceus V Star? Because, again, he can't interact with any of Alex's bench Pokemon right now without boss's orders prized. So he's looking to pass, I think, unless he is still going to get the memory skip eventually. Has drawn back into level ball to grab it. Yeah, he's got it. I think he's got the memory skip in hand, actually. So he went to go and get the curly. I believe he's got the memory skip in hand. Yeah, it is in there. So it's going to be another refinement out of the deck. Can Tord draw the Temple of Sinnoh? I think that's the only other thing that could make this play a little safer, so that Alex simply doesn't just retreat and attack with Arceus into the Ralts. Yeah, and then, because that's the problem, if your boss's orders prized, if you just memory skip, and then you just retreat and KO with Arceus, you still need the boss's orders to take out Alolan Vulpix, or else you've lost your memory skip, and Alolan Vulpix is still doing Alolan Vulpix things, and you don't have the boss's orders available yet, so this is going to be extremely awkward for Tord. We see a Collapse Stadium in hand, but not yet the Temple of Sinnoh. So we are going to draw a couple of cards with this Gardevoir, and does hit the Temple of Sinnoh. I've got to think that's the only thing that can make the memory skip play feel a little better. I'm not sure if Tord will still go for this. I'm not sure what the plan is if he doesn't memory skip this turn, though. He is falling behind in prizes, and sure, you can leave the Gardevoir EX active just to sponge, but it doesn't feel great. No, it really, really doesn't. I mean, you can't use Penny to pick it up because it's not a basic Pokemon, so you can't, tank a couple of turns and then pick it up in that regard. So we see a Fog Crystal coming down for a Cresselia, and we might just see an attack with Cresselia. And I suppose the hope here is, come on, don't have Lost City. Bearing in mind, Tord did just Roxanne Alex down to a 2-card hand, so if Alex gets a return KO, maybe you get a turn to kind of mirror him and get it back. So it looks like Cresselia will be coming into play. It has 2 different attacking options. The Moonglow Reverse can heal some of your Psychic Pokemon whilst also putting counters onto the board, onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. And there is a pretty heavily damaged Arceus. Perhaps this is Tord's line, trying to take out the V-Star this way. Potentially, the only attack.
I'm seeing energy spread. That means it's not a Lunar Blast. That means we're going to be putting 2 across all of our Psychic dudes and whacking it straight back onto Alex's V-Star on the bench.
This is actually really cool. You move 2 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So essentially, you accelerate energy with Gardevoir. Every time you do that, you put 2 energy on a Pokemon, only Psychic, hence no Greninja. So you're actually doing 100 damage for a single energy onto the Arceus to get the KO. And Taunt is going to hit the boss's orders, I'm 99% sure. Yes, he does hit the boss's orders here. It's in that position you usually take first. So that means that Tord now does have access to boss's orders. And that makes Memory Skip a way better play because if Alex just tries to hide it on the bench, you can bring it up and KO it. So I love this.
Alex's hand is quite bad. Roxanne has done the thing. Alex really doesn't play much of an engine outside of his own V-Star power, which has already been used this game. So Alex can simply evolve into the V-Star, take the knockout and hope here.
Well, he did have Lost City in hand.
Yeah, has to. I don't think he's worried about Cresselia anymore. I think he's going down to 2 prizes. He just needs to hold on to this Lost City for exactly that Memory Skip.
Yeah, quite possibly, because that's the thing. Arceus with a small hand is going to be hard to get the Alolan Vulpix to the bench and back active attacking, and the Arceus on the bench isn't going to be able to attack, not without a double turbo energy, and I've seen a bunch of them get lost already from Alex. So I think this is kind of Tord's line here, which is essentially, I'm going to Memory Skip when I'm really sure you have no answer to a Memory Skip. And I think if you're going to do that, this is the turn.
This is 100% the turn for Tord. He's seen that Alex has done nothing from the Roxanne, and that means it's time to pop down little Rolts and try your best, because currently Alex doesn't have an easy play. He can't simply retreat into Arceus V-Star and attack with it, and that's going to be the window of opportunity Tord needs to take here if he is going to stop this Vulpix. The only other alternative is if you gust up the Arceus V-Star. Oh no, that doesn't even work because Power Pad's used. So yeah, it actually has to be Memory Skip here. There's no other play.
No, it has to be Memory Skip. I agree with you on that one. And I love that Tord, he could have got it last turn, but no, you use the Cresselia to take out the Arceus, which would be the obvious response to a Memory Skip. And now you can bring in that Memory Skip at the right time. And there's still a chance Alex draws out of it. A double turbo energy would essentially end the game at that point.
I think that was his prize card as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, if he's got the double turbo energy, that would be absolutely huge, because you just retreat the Alolan Vulpix into Arceus, you chuck down the Lost City, go and get the KO, and then that would be just absolutely huge. If he does have that, that would be a very, very big deal.
You can see how big of an issue this Alolan Vulpix is. I mean, not many Gardevoir decks don't even play this Rolts. Tord, somehow with the foresight to respect this very fringe card, that's made it all the way to the finals, and I'm sure Tord's very happy that he is now playing this Memory Skip Rolts. But even still, it's not a foolproof strategy, especially with how aggressive Alex has gone on taking prizes this game.
No, Alex is already 4 prizes up, and it's not going to... Alex doesn't actually have a route to win next turn. That Gardevoir is out of range from his attackers. Yep. So Tord is going to have a couple of turns, and it really is... Now, we do see the retreat here into the other Gardevoir.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit interesting. I'm not too sure.
Oh, he might be doing that thing I mentioned earlier, which is you boss the Arceus, KO it. Can he even get to a KO, though? And then basically make it so there's nothing that you can Memory Skip. But the thing is, the whole point, one of the reasons to do that is so you kind of force Alex to bench another Pokemon, but Tord will have used Boss, has used Power Pad. There is no more gusting for Tord. He doesn't play Escape Rope, so Alex actually could bench other Pokemon here, knowing that they're safe from Tord when Tord's still got 2 prizes left. But this might be it. It might be get a KO on the Arceus using Boss's orders and then Memory Skip. Yeah. So there's absolutely nothing that Alex can do to get around it. That might be the play. The problem is, but then...
Well, this has to be the line for Tord. And it's all been helped thanks to even the Cresselia helping out, healing up the Curlier whilst getting the attachment. Boss's orders up of the Arceus. It's going to put Tord down to 2 prize cards. Then you try and hold off Alex at 1 prize card remaining with your Rolts and the Memory Skip play, hoping that Alex can only pass back into you, and then you can just knock out that Vulpix with ease.
Yeah, and that has got to be the play. It's a very risky play, letting your opponent go down to just 1 prize. But the thing about Rolts is, it says, on your opponent's next turn, they can't use the attack. Oh, what if
Alex gets Colrus. This could be big. We know Tord has played the Roxanne and Palpad, so this could be really massive. Alex gets the potential to Luminion. That's very helpful for next turn, giving them further dig, because they'll have to find Switch next turn if they are memory skipped.
Yeah, but they've got a double colorless energy and they've got themselves a Pokemon, so a switch would then essentially allow them to manually retreat after a switch. That would totally be an option. I mean, even an Arceus, does he have a 1-1 V-Star line left? Because he could start working towards that. I saw the V-Star, but I don't think he's got a V left.
It's literally hide and seek with this one switch. I think that's what this second game is going to come down to here. Tord's put himself in a position where he will go down to one prize card and try and memory skip Alex. And it's down to Alex to find this one switch remaining in the deck.
Yeah, I think that is probably it. That Luminion is going to be able to help you dig quite nicely. And I suppose if you are digging for the last switch, you just go for as much as you can. Do you really want the Drapion? Who really cares? Get it out your deck. Give yourself an, the fewer cards there are in your deck, the more likely you are to draw the cards you want when you start drawing cards from your deck. So that's essentially where we're going here. Is that Drapion going to attack? Probably not. Although, to be fair, it is colorless energy, and we do have a double turbo in hand.
The Drapion's going to, oh wow, benching the Drapion now. Tord can simply, oh no, has used the boss's orders, so Alex knows that he's not under threat from any gust. There's going to be this Vulpix stuck in the active. This is, thanks to having list knowledge, Alex can make this play.
He's used Palpad, he used Boss, there is no rope in the deck.
Yeah.
Tord has no way of going after this Drapion. This Drapion is completely safe on the bench. That is why the boss's orders early was such a big deal. It is literally down to, can Tord make the memory skip stick? There you go.
Yeah.
Not an easy one to say loud.
Good enunciation. Yeah, exactly. So this is the turn. Alex currently doesn't have the switch in hand, so the memory skip will be doing something, but with already a double turbo energy on this Drapion, its energy attack cost is actually all colorless, so it could even just be retreat and actually use Dynamic Tail to knock out a little Ralts.
Yeah, with another it would take a second double turbo energy, but it would literally be able.
So it's actually in hand for Alex right now. He has the 2 double turbos.
Oh, does he actually have it in hand?
I think we're good. As long as... Does Tord still have access to Judge? I know it's been discarded, but was padded back in. So it may be down to a Judge memory skip here.
Oh my goodness, that Drapion. See, everyone remembers Drapion for the ability.
Yeah, Judge is the thing that Tord has to hunt for here. You can see it's currently in his bottom 4.
No, it's in his bottom 4.
This is the Mysterious Tail for Fog Crystal, thinning 1. So Tord can access his full deck with this Greninja and Refinement from Curlier now. So we will see the Judge. And then it's really the lucky dip for Alex. Will he be able to find it from 4 random cards from a Judge?
Double turbo.
Needs the switch or double turbo.
Yeah, those are the 2 cards that would get him the game. Everyone thinks about that Drapion for the ability, allowing it to attack for free into Mew. But that colorless energy, we've seen it in Lost Box decks with Mirage Gate. So that can be big. What do we see? It's a Sky Seal Stone and a Penny, I believe. So we haven't seen it yet. But now we steal the last 2 cards. Oh, look, he's got the Judge. Who could have seen that coming?
Tord has plenty of cards in the hand that he can make this play. Can bench Ralts quite happily. There it is, a little memory skip. I'm very happy to see it in the deck list. And also even going to get that Sky Seal Stone, why not? And we will see the Judge now. This is the play. Tord's worked so hard this game. Oh wow, even has the Temple of Sinnoh. This is really big. That negates the double turbo as an option for Alex, who has got rid of a number of Velocity already throughout this game. There's one in the Lost Zone. I think there's been 1 or 2 discarded from Ultra Ball.
Yeah, he has gotten rid of a couple of those. This is actually genuinely huge because now it means that double turbo is only, so it's either Switch wins the game or it's double turbo combined with a stadium, and that is a vastly different proposition. So now it looks like we're going to see the Judge coming down, and it's just kind of cross your fingers. This game is going to end essentially next turn. Either Alex gets the win or Alex concedes. That is, or, passes to Tord to win. They are the only 2 outcomes. Alex is going into his final turn of the game.
And Alex knows he's getting hand disrupted. He's already ready for it. Alex's hand was pretty good as well. Had Luminion, had double turbo. As you said, it wasn't guaranteed thanks to the Temple of Sinnoh, but Tord's just making sure there's no other thing that could trip him up at this stage.
Oh, so nervous.
Tord knows it's down to this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? No matter how many times you've been here before, you're
Here
one
we
game
go.
up. If you win
Spin the wheel.
if you win this game, you win the international championships, and you're like, I'm going to judge and hope he doesn't get what he wants.
Tord shaking his head, saying, I've worked so hard this game for this one. Game 1 was a bit of a cakewalk, but this one has been a nail-biter. Tord pulling boss's orders out of the prize cards to give him this opening to now try and get the memory skip activation with this judge. And can Alex draw out of this?
So these 4 cards for Alex from this judge are going to be absolutely... It doesn't matter what Tord draws. Tord's got the retreat on the Mew. He's got the energy. He's got... Nobody cares. Like, what Tord is sorted.
It's a memory skip, yeah.
Tord needs absolutely nothing. The question... And okay, Alex, come on. Show us your cards.
No, I love the suspense. I'm here for the drama.
Oh, I want to know, Joe. I want the answer.
I'm here for the drama. I want to see him do it one at a time.
So we do see the energy going on to the routes there. There we go. We are going to see the memory skip coming down. That is going to turn off Alolan Vulpix's attack with a whopping 10
He has to
damage.
announce the correct attack, making sure he knows which one.
And we got 5 cards here. Now this is going to be absolutely huge. Do we see the switch? We've got Judge and we've got Chorus's Experiment, so we're not done yet.
We have Ultra Ball for Luminion, so we can find a better supporter potentially here as well. Could find a Professor's Research dig.
Now we do see the Duraludon V.
Oh, I thought it was an Ultra Ball.
No, there was an Ultra Ball. He also had a Nest Ball.
Right,
so
we're
the
just
Nest Ball,
finning.
yeah, the Nest Ball's bringing down the Duraludon. This is completely irrelevant. He's finning his deck. Nobody cares. He's got an Ultra Ball, and yeah, the Ultra Ball is going to be for Luminion, which is going to get a more aggressive supporter. There is a Professor's Research. There's Luminion.
Here we go.
There's a Professor's Research. So we've now got, we saw the 5, didn't see it. We've now got 7. It's really simple. It is either a double turbo energy combined with a way to bounce a stadium, or it is a switch. Either of those 2 cards would win this game, send us to a game 3. If Alex doesn't get those, Tord is just going to be able to pile energy onto Gardevoir, get a KO, and take us to a game 3. Or even pile energy on Zacian. There we go. That'll do even more damage.
This is the biggest Professor's Research of Alex Schemanski's career. Going to be seeing 7 cards here.
There's double turbo.
That's 1 piece.
There's the switch. He's got it.
We're tying it up here. We're going to a game 3.
Yeah, so Alex Schemanske there, he is going to... He's like, what do I do? What do I do?
To go about it. He has it in every which way.
Energy on the Luminion, switch to Luminion, then we retreat. That resets the memory skip on the Alolan Vulpix. We see the fist bump, and we go to game 3. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, Joe, I'm kind of up for a game 3 right now.
That was absolutely thrilling. Fantastic from both players. It came down to a wacky judge. That's one of the main hand disruptors of the format ever since Marnie rotated. And Alex was able to find it from that Professor's Research, thanks to a cheeky Luminion V.
Yeah, and Luminion is putting in work this tournament. Luminion is really coming up clutch for many of our players here. And here's the thing, right? We talk about Alolan Vulpix, and we saw in a little promo video we had for both the players, Alex showing off the Alolan Vulpix. Everybody knows that is the key to this matchup by now, and if they don't, they've not been listening to us, Joe. We've said it plenty of times. But that doesn't mean that you just go, hey, Alolan Vulpix, I win the game. It is not like when you drop a Drapion and get a free hit KO on a Mew. It is not that simple. You need to lock your opponent, and if you've got answers like Tord, and Tord could not have played that game better. Yeah. Using the Cresselia to KO the Arceus, so take out that option. Then KOing the other Arceus to take out that option. Then playing the Temple of Sinnoh combined with a Judge to make it so much more difficult. Tord did everything he could, and I need to point this out. If the boss's orders wasn't prized, Tord had everything he needed to KO that Alolan Vulpix before it evolved.
So Tord now is going to be able to go first, and we saw how that went in the first game. His turn 2 was absolutely insane, getting some pressure on with Zacian early, so that might be playing on his mind now. Again, as he said before, it comes down to those opening hands, and we've got to see how it goes. Our players are shuffling up. Ali's has got to be feeling good about that one as well. His tech card worked to perfection, and yeah, he's given himself a great chance here, leveling up the series in this best of 3.
Yeah, and again, I talked about Tord's play. Let's also mention Alex played that absolutely beautifully, making sure that he would really, and we saw from both players, maximizing your outs, giving yourself his little things, like dropping that Duraludon V onto the bench so that you can't draw it off of your Professor's Research. We've at least got an Ultra Ball in hand, so Alex has got something going. Tord's got Professor's Research.
Oh, no!
Oh my goodness, it's prize. That is huge, Joe.
And I think both players could hear through the headsets the crowd outside, and it's the rolls for Tord as well.
Memory skip rolls.
Both of these players are going to do their opening deck search and think that they're the one who's been unlucky.
Oh, see, that's the thing, right? They heard the reaction from the crowd, but Alex is going to be like, no, they were talking about my Lowland Vulpix. Tord's going to be like, no, they were talking about my routes.
So it is going to be Tord leading with Cresselia, Alex with that Drapion. Tord has a number of ball search cards in hand. I think I saw a number of level ball and fog crystal, and has Professor's Research for next turn, so he's going to be off to the races.
And this is going to be so awkward for Alex, because what Alex needs to do here, right, is just take quick prizes. Take quick prizes to try and fetch that Alolan Vulpix V-Star out of the prizes. But the problem is, if you leave it a couple of turns, there has to be a turn where you drop down that Alolan Vulpix V before it's evolved. And I can guarantee you, Tord will not be playing Luminion or getting rid of Boss's Orders until that Alolan Vulpix hits the bench. Tord is going to be waiting for that. And it's going to be awkward if we see something, you know, like the Luminion in hand with a Professor's Research, which we know Tord loves to play. Tord is going to have to really look after his resources here. There's only one Luminion, and yes, I know there's a Miriam, but that just gets a little bit awkward at that stage.
As it stands, Fog Crystal for a basic Psychic Pokemon in this instance could also be Psychic Energy. Very flexible card for all of these Psychic decks. It's been a staple in Gardevoir, and now we see an additional level ball. Part of the reason why the Gardevoir deck functions, even though it is a stage 2, is that you get to play 4 Battle VIP Pass and a number of these Fog Crystal and level ball to make sure that you're getting exactly what we're seeing here. Additional Ralts on the board early. These are essential to Tord's strategy.
Yeah, if you bench one Ralts and it gets KO'd, then you lose the game. You need to be getting, I mean, 2 turn 1 is the absolute minimum. Ideally, you want 3, and that is exactly what we see here with the level ball. Of course, we know one of them is prize, but even if it wasn't, we've seen from the first 2 games, Tord is not benching the memory skip Ralts. It is too important. It is too central to his strategy. He is going to be going after just the free teleportation burst. That is the goal for Tord turn 1. Now, it does look like we're actually eyeing up the Mew here, but of course, if Tord's got an energy in hand, he can manually retreat to Cresselia and then use Mew to go and get himself an extra item card, and there is an energy in hand to do that.
Tord's eyeing up the Celebrations Mew, as you say. That gives him that lucky dip. He gets to see 6 off the top and look for an item card. That gives him a little bit more flexibility. He'd be happy seeing more Level Ball, more Ultra Ball, and of course, Battle VIP Pass picked early off would be fantastic.
Yeah, and that is one of the best things about this Mew, because it looks at the top 6 cards, find yourself an item card. If you get it turn 1 and you're not attacking, so using an energy to retreat is fine, you can actually go and get yourself that Battle VIP Pass, which is so central. And that will actually fill up his bench if he wished it. He does. No, he does get it. He hits the Battle VIP Pass, throws it down onto the table, and this has been an exceptional turn 1 for Tord. Alex has started with a decent but suboptimal starter, and he's sitting there just watching Tord go and do Tord things. And in a minute, Alex is going to search his deck, and he is going to get some terrible, terrible news.
Tord doing the old more cards gambit. It's always his play. I want to see more and more of my deck as quickly as possible. Has the debate of Radiant Greninja versus Zacian, has spent their energy for turn to retreat, so it does feel like just having more draw available seems like the wisest decision in this case, because oftentimes you like to Roar of the Sword alongside your turn attachment.
Yeah, that is what you really want to do. You attach for turn, Roar of the Sword, and then turn 2 you attach for turn, and then you've got that attack going straight away.
Right.
If you don't get the turn attached, then you've got to start using Gardevoir EX to accelerate energy. And honestly, at that point, sometimes Gardevoir EX is just as good an attacker anyway, if you can get it turn 2, which is far from a guarantee.
How about that for a turn 1 setup from Tord? Absolutely exceptional, and can pass things over to Alex now.
Yeah, and that is everything Tord wanted. Alex, we don't see a Battle VIP Pass, but we see a Nest Ball. That's not bad.
Yeah, Nest Ball and Ultra Ball, so should be able to get a few basics down, and I think might be judging as well by the looks of things. I didn't see any other supporter in hand. Just eyeing it straight away. And this is where Alex gets the bad news, don't forget. So let's have a look at his prize cards once again. He's nodding, he's laughing. You gotta just say, really, really game 3 of an international finals. Yeah, the eyes are bulging.
And that, I mean, that I've been there. That is a bad feeling. When it is a, I mean, I've not been in international finals, but I have been in some big games and looked through my deck and been like, yeah, no, but that's not the prize though, is it? And then you search a couple more times and you're like, okay, and that is literally one of the 2 super important cards in his deck for this matchup. There is no other game after this. This is the final game of the international championships. and essentially he's not got access to his big tech card. That is going to make things very, very awkward. And it doesn't mean Alex is out. Duraludon does big damage and can tank a hit from, unless Tord goes completely silly with energy. He's got some good attackers. Arceus is good. It's not that Alex can't win without the Alolan Vulpix. It is that the Alolan Vulpix makes it an infinitely better matchup.
It looks like Alex is going to simply pass here, not even looking to judge, as Tord had a 3-card hand. And with the pickup of the Gardevoir EX from Tord with a Miriam in hand, do you ever go for the Mew here first to try and cherry-pick rare candy, or do you just throw it all away?
No, I Mew. I absolutely Mew here. Yeah, go for it. Because the thing is, Miriam is your one recovery card here. And if you get rid of that, as well as your Gardevoir, it means that you are really going to be struggling for Gardevoir as we go through the game. Yes, we choose not to go for the Mew, and let's face it, Tord probably knows what he's doing at this stage. There's only 2 Gardevoir EX in the deck for Tord.
Yeah.
So he's now down to 1 EX for the entire game. That is, of course, his energy acceleration. If it makes you feel any better, he wouldn't have hit the rare candy anyway, because of course they would have been, 6 of those 7 cards would have been the options from the Mew. So it turns out it was a moot point in the end. So we play the level ball, we're going to get a Curlier, but we need to keep an eye because now we've got one of our 2 Gardevoir and our Miriam in the discard, although there is always a possibility of using Power Pad to get Miriam, to get Gardevoir. It's a long way round, but it will work.
It can be done, absolutely, but it's turn 2, which means it's refinement time. We're going to be throwing cards into the discard, throwing them into hand, and gaining that massive advantage early. And trying to also filter Psychic Energy. I think we already see 1 and Fog Crystal, so we can start with the concealed cards here to see 2 additional. Tord definitely going to be looking for rare candy pressure like he did in that first game.
Hasn't hit it yet, has hit a couple of energy, which of course, when you're using refinement, those energy are great. Get them in the discard, draw some extra cards. Now we do see a Fog Crystal and an Ultra Ball. Of course, the Gardevoir is already in hand, but now we see a second Curlier here, so we're going to see another refinement, which could potentially be an energy here as well. Of course, there's always a chance you draw into one, or indeed 2. And I think see, it's awkward. At this stage, you've not got the Gardevoir, so you could here even go treble Curlier, but it looks like... What have you seen, Joe? What have you seen?
The Gardevoir EX is in hand, so Tord now debating whether or not to Fog Crystal or Ultra Ball before using this Mew. That could be the only way to get rare candy this turn to put any pressure on. Yeah. Otherwise, you just settle for just drawing more cards, which is also completely fine, I think.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Tord, of course, did actually just naturally draw into his second Gardevoir after getting rid of one. So we're kind of in the same position we were before the Professor's research. Use Mew, hope you get a rare candy, and if you don't hit the rare candy off Mew, then you go for the third Curlier, get a bunch of extra cards. But yeah, absolutely, you fish for that rare candy first, because there's enough energy in the discard that you can get some good attacks going on if you can get the rare candy. And you see here, thinning the deck beautifully.
Yeah, I kind of actually like using Cresselia here if you do find rare candy. If you rare candy into your EX and just throw a few energy around your board and just do a little poke onto that Arceus, make it easier for you to finish it off with a Shining Arcana Gardevoir. I feel like that's a pretty good play because the one awkward thing about Tord's board right now is that it's a little bit clogged with Pokemon. He wants to open up some space for his Zacian at some point.
Yeah, that Zacian is a great attacker, but you can only have 6 Pokemon on the field, just like you can only have 6 Pokemon in the video game. So if you want to get more out, you've got to get rid of some. So here are these 6 cards that are going to be picked from with Mysterious Tail. We don't see it, unfortunately. No legal targets at all. It is worth noting Tord does only play 2 copies of Rare Candy because you've got to play the 4 Curlier, so it's not as likely as it would be in some other lists that are going full 4 Rare Candy.
And Tord is probably secretly happy because it means he gets to use Refinement one more time. It's his favorite gambit. It's literally his favorite thing to do in Pokemon.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get 3 of those this turn, 3 of those next turn. And one thing that is very cool with this Curlier, of course, Tord can Refinement next turn and then evolve into a Gardevoir and start doing Gardevoir things. So that's always nice. And just kind of a nice little bonus, didn't hit the rare candy off Refinement because that's always just a bit sad.
So it looks like Tord is just going to have to pass things over. His hand is pretty stacked, but we know Alex was holding on to judges. Alex has to breathe a sigh of relief here, has avoided some early pressure that was so vital in the first game. And, you know, has Ultra Ball and Judge for next turn, so is pretty happy with this outcome. Will be able to develop the Arceus V-Star, will have Starbirth open, and that means he's getting set up into this game. Let's not forget, though, once again, that the Vulpix may be a lot less of a factor. Alex may want to try and use it as a bait or a threat at some point if it suits him, or if he's taking prize cards on the turn that he benches a Vulpix, it may make some sense, because he may just need to gamble at this stage, saying, I need to take this Vulpix V-Star from my prizes so that I can still develop this game plan.
Yeah, and sometimes it absolutely is worth the gamble. It's got to be down for a turn before you evolve it anyway.
Yeah.
So bench it nice and early before you take a prize or two, and just hope you hit it, because the fact of the matter is, if that Alolan Vulpix V-Star never comes out, it's kind of irrelevant. But if it does come out, it started into prizes. You don't get to control like you usually would when it comes out. So there's always going to be an awkward situation of when exactly you can have access to it. So sometimes it's worth the gamble. Now, we did see Judge coming down. Alex's forehand. There is actually a Professor's Research and an Ultra Ball. So Alex is probably feeling pretty good about that Judge.
Do you give away the game now? Do you say, well, I don't have access to Vulpix, it's time to get a Duraludon in the mix?
I think you have to, and I makes me sad saying that, but the fact of the matter is, if you bench the Vulpix, you don't have the V-Star, so it's only got 190 HP, and that is actually crucial because it is in range of a KO from Gardevoir EX for free energy, and when I'm Gardevoir, I'm always looking for Pokemon I can one-hit with just Gardevoir EX. So you're going to give the game away at some point. I don't want to be risking a couple of prizes, but Alex disagrees with me here, and if I'm told my game plan here is really simple, but there's no bench, although there's going to be this bench space here, cool. Yeah, if I'm told I'm going Gardevoir EX, free energy, Luminion, Boss's Orders, take out the Alolan Vulpix V. Alex, he's hoping here, but if you put, yeah,
this is the best way to go about it, because you're still acting as if you can hit it off your prizes, and I think that's the best gamble to go for. You still have your plan A if you're fortunate with the prizes. We know it won't be, unfortunately, but this is, you know, Tord is thinking at this stage, I need to deal with this Vulpix as quickly as possible, and has just been judged. So although they have a number of ways to draw with refinement, is probably still a little bit shaky about this Vulpix.
Yeah, and putting the one energy on Alolan Vulpix V does not give anything away because the V-Star attacks for a water and 2 colorless energy, so a double turbo will pay that quite nicely. Now we do have, he's actually got most of what he needs here. He's got an Ultra Ball for the Gardevoir, and he's got an energy to retreat. He just needs a way to get Luminion or Boss's Orders here. So we're going to see a bunch of refinement, and we are hoping it's a Sky Seal Stone and a Temple of Sinnoh. That's not enough yet. There are 2 more refinements.
More draws to go, and I think there is double Ultra Ball in hand. So Tord, if he draws enough cards with these refinements, it doesn't really matter what he gets into. Actually sees the supporter as well, so could just go double Ultra Ball now into the Professor's Research.
I love that. That makes absolute perfect sense to me. You can attach to the active to retreat or use Gardevoir's ability. It doesn't really matter which way around you do it. But yeah, get the Gardevoir. I don't want to use Boss's Orders this turn. I want to use double Ultra Ball. I want to get my Gardevoir. I want to get my Luminion. And then I just want to Boss's Orders, that Vulpix, and
Zacian. That's interesting. That also makes it a little bit easier. Could be better than trying to have to find the Shining Arcana Gardevoir to hit with. I think Tord... actually, no, because the board would be full, so you wouldn't be able to Luminion.
No, you can't
so
play
I think
any more
Tord is a
Pokemon.
piece down right now. Doesn't have... Well, actually could use the EX to take the knockout, so
yeah,
does have the option to knock out the Vulpix here.
That's what I was saying. I like the EX here. That is one of the things that makes me nervous about Alolan Vulpix V. Gardevoir EX hits 190. You don't get many Pokemon, but you get stuff like Luminion, you get stuff like Genesect, and you get stuff like Alolan Vulpix V. And they are always on my radar if I'm playing. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah, we're bossing.
We are using the Ultra Ball here. And here's the thing. Tord doesn't know that it's prized. Tord can't know that it's prized. And the weird thing is, even though the crowd reaction, Tord might be thinking that was a reaction to his memory skip being prized.
And Tord's actually, I believe, prized Palpad. And Miriam has gone, and Alex has got 2 energy onto their Drapion. So if Tord uses this Gardevoir, it may be the only time that he could Psychic Embrace until he's able to take Palpad from prizes. So both players are in a bit of a precarious spot right now. If Tord powers up Gardevoir, he's also got to maximize his Psychic Embraces this turn.
Absolutely. Now, he does have Temple of Sinnoh in hand, so that would be one option, to play Temple of Sinnoh and just hope your opponent doesn't have a Lost City. It's not perfect. Of course, another thing that could happen is Alex could get a KO with Lost City out, and then Miriam's not even an option anyway.
Sure. It is going to be that second Ultra Ball now for Tord. Going to get rid of a Zacian. May also want to get rid of the Sky Seal Stone as well, with so many 2 prize Pokemon currently on the board. It sort of forces your map down this direction. Also, you've got to think, even just taking that prize, even if it doesn't change that you need to take 3 knockouts, it would give you access a little bit more towards that Pal Pad.
Yeah, which is, you know, with the Alolan Vulpix V going down, then it is actually the Pal Pad in the prizes that is by far the more important of the cards. Because, like you say, we have list knowledge at this point. Let's not pretend. Both of these players will have gone back and watched their opponent on stream. Both of these players will know what their opponent is playing. Research will have been done. You know, this is too important a game to not do it. So, you know, Alex is going to know that Tord plays 1 boss, 1 Pal Pad, and Tord is going to know that Alex does not play recovery.
This is the right way to go about it for Tord, because now they have to try and get either Luminion or Boss's Orders from the Shining Arcana, because they can't risk just going Luminion, knocking out Vulpix, and then Alex responds on the Drapion. You'd be left with nothing. You'd have nothing remaining to close out the game. You at least want to be able to power up this Gardevoir as you use your EX. So here's 2 big cards for Tord. Hits the Boss's Orders.
That is absolutely huge. It means he doesn't need to bench the Luminion here. That is fantastic.
Could use Zacian now and protect your EX on the bench. That is huge. Could also use your Gardevoir, the single prizer. This is absolutely massive. That was a huge hit from Shining Arcana from Tord, and a really good gamble, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You still had your backup plan there, but did it the perfect way round. And it's not about benching the 2 prize or anything silly like that. It is about bench space. Tord wants that bench space for something like a Zacian, and I think you laid it out really nicely. The EX will get the KO. You just don't want it to get the KO. You want something else to be KO'd in response. And the thing here is, once you KO this, the Drapion's quite weak, and you can build up a giant Zacian to KO the Arceus, and then all of a sudden you're golden. I am slightly worried about the Miriam with a Gardevoir and a Zacian in the discard, so I do want that Pal Pad, but we know it's not coming out anytime soon.
Yeah, make no mistake, this is still difficult for Tord. His resources are very thin at this stage. That's why we're seeing so many embraces right now. Tord wants to make the Zacian a big enough threat that Alex can't ignore it.
Yes.
He needs to say, you go through this, not my Gardevoir, please.
Yes, but it's like I think about it, you're putting your opponent in an impossible position. They really want to take out the EX, knowing you only play 2 and 1s in the discard with your Miriam. But if they don't take out the EX, Zacian's just like, yay, smash! And you've kind of got to go after the Zacian as well. That Temple of Sinnoh does hit the bench of the field, of course. That really makes it awkward to respond with Drapion. It's going to kind of force the Arceus response instead. And yeah, this is nice.
So committing 5 energy to his Zacian right now. Has I think, still 3 in the discard pile. Will Tord commit any more embraces or not this turn? Because there's still that option that Alex maybe just attempts to go for this Gardevoir EX on the bench for some reason with that Drapion. It's in range, and it could be a play that Alex makes, but he doesn't have the read that Pal Pad is prized necessarily.
No, absolutely not. There goes the Alolan Vulpix, and that is absolutely huge. Like we said a couple of times, but let's repeat it. Alex plays no recovery. That Alolan Vulpix is gone. It ain't coming back. So that means that the big counter to Tord's deck is gone, and we are now heading into, you know, the latter stages, the final 10 minutes, and now we're kind of in a prize race, except Tord's ahead on prizes.
Yep, and it's, you know, a few vulnerable V Pokemon around Alex's board. Has benched the Duraludon this turn. I think that's the best option for them. They have had to attach to the active to play around the Temple of Sinnoh, but all they really have is a response knockout here with Trinity Nova and has to power up Duraludon.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Duraludon VMAX hits 220, which is a lot, and it has a huge amount of HP, which is lovely. And the thing is, Tord is now done with Gusting. With Pal Pad is prized, Boss's Orders is played, there's no escape rope or any of that.
Not many good energy to use here. Just 1 fighting can go onto the Duraludon, so even using that chunkier hit point VMAX would have been a great option, but not enough basic energy in the deck for Alex to weave this in.
That is going to be super awkward. And for Tord here, it's kind of, can we get giant KOs? Now remember, Zacian are both gone, Miriam is gone. So Tord is a little bit low on attackers here. Tord is going to need to find something. I mean, Pal Pad into Miriam would be perfect, but we know that's not happening. This Pal Pad is looming large over this game. And Tord doesn't have many attackers. That non-EX Gardevoir is only played as a one-of, if memory serves correctly. Zacian's gone. This is getting awkward.
Yeah, we're a little bit light here, to be honest. We're going to see a level ball, no target, Tord making sure that he knows what is still available. as he still has draw options. But yeah, it looks really rough, actually, for Tord. How's he going to get out of this situation with that Drapion being so threatening? Is he going to try and weave in this Cresselia and go for potentially even a 2-hit KO on the active here? Because he cannot reach, I don't think, with his Shining Arcana Gardevoir. You can only embrace 6 energy onto it, putting it down to 20 hit points remaining. Has no turn attachments, I believe. Has 1 available in the deck. That would only be 270 damage.
Yep.
So maybe you need to Moon Glow a little bit onto the active this turn.
That might be the case, yeah. 6 energy maximum, 180 plus a 60 base is 240. Even with a turn attachment is 270. And, you know, with all these attacks doing extra damage for the energy on, you don't play anything like Choice Bout in this deck. That's not the way you're going. So with no gusting, that Arceus is just tantalizingly close, but it is 10 HP out of reach. And that means that, yeah, I think there is going to need to be some kind of setup attack here. And the problem is Tord just desperately needs that power pad, because he could legitimately run out of attackers in this game.
Yep, it's going to be the judge. Palpad being the top of Tord's prizes is making life very difficult for him. Is going to try and reduce Alex's hand size, and it feels like he's also trying to create that window of opportunity where he brings this Arceus V-Star into a lower range of hit points so we can try and finish it off on a following turn, and is really crossing their fingers that the Gardevoir EX, or even just the one prize Gardevoir, isn't targeted by Alex. He's essentially trying to dodge boss's orders right now.
He is. The problem is you use this Cresselia, right? And then Alex KOs and goes down to 2 prizes. Then you have to use your big Gardevoir. But the prize map's awkward here, because you need to use your single prize Gardevoir then, because if you use a 2 prize, a Drapion knocks it out and you win. But then you're kind of forced into using Gardevoir EX to KO your next one, but that only hits 190. Well, you need to use the EX first to finish off the Arceus.
Yeah.
But
so
if you do that...
You load up now with as many as you can, by the looks of things. Oh, wow, we're seeing the retreat into the Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Going to use this one first, it looks like. Again, trying to create that threat so your Gardevoir EX isn't simply dealt with, and that's the game. But yeah, this is putting on 270 damage. You can try and use the Cresselia later, I suppose, to finish this off. And remember, Tord doesn't have any Gust remaining either, has spent his boss's orders, so even if this retreats away, Tord needs to be able to bring it back, or can use Cresselia to hit it on the bench. Really interesting developments in these last stages of this game 3. It's getting so close. Tord is behind on the prize cards, but has ways to catch up. Very heavily damaged multi-prizes that can be in range for him. And Alex needs to find a way of picking apart this board.
I'm concerned for Tord here, because the last KO needs to be taken with the EX, because otherwise you're giving up 2 prizes, you lose the game, you're done. The problem is the EX only hits 190, and he needs to hit more than that. And you can't just take several turns to do it, because Alex is set up in terms of attackers, yeah? That Arceus is just going to keep attacking every turn and taking prizes. So Alex goes down to 2 prizes here. You need to use a 1 prizer to take a KO, but that KO is going to be on the Arceus, and then Gardevoir EX doesn't KO Drapion. So I'm really struggling with a map here, Joe. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell me how Tord can organize his attackers. Because Zacian would do it just fine, but he doesn't have it. And another Gardevoir would do it just fine. He doesn't have it. His recovery is Miriam. Miriam is gone. Palpad is in the prizes. So Tord is... anything in the discard pile is essentially lost to Tord for the rest of this game as it stands.
It's looking better and better for Alex, as they also have boss's orders now in hand. Can also Ultra Ball for V Max potentially. Will be going down to 2 prize cards remaining. And once again, Tord has had really awkward prizes. Roxanne is also in his prize card, so he cannot hand disrupt Alex here. Unless Tord pulls something out, I think this might be all done.
Yeah, we are getting very close to the end here. The problem is Tord needs to start taking prizes. Tord essentially needs to KO this turn and next turn. This turn is fine. You use Cresselia. And then the thing is, even if Alex responds on the Cresselia, you don't have a way to take another prize. You have to attack with Gardevoir EX, and Gardevoir EX will not take those prizes. Zacian would do it, Gardevoir would do it. They're not there. And I honestly think getting rid of that Miriam in the early game, combined with Palpad being into prizes and not coming out, and I think that's basically what Tord is relying on. Tord is relying on you KO the Arceus this turn, you grab the Palpad, then you Miriam, you get your Pokemon back, and then he has an option next turn. From Tord's point of view, that is a legitimate thing that might work. We know he's not hitting the Palpad off the prizes when he KOs this Arceus, but that might all end up being a moot point, because if Alex has got an energy card. And he's already got the energy, even with Temple of Sinnoh. I didn't see that double turbo there for a moment.
Yep.
So if he's just got to boss his orders, and we know he does, he's just going to boss the Gardevoir, and that's going to be game.
Yeah, you've articulately said how Tord is thinking that they still have a chance, but as we know, Alex has it in hand. I think this one is a wrap. Tord is going to do everything he can to just see more options here. If there is anything that they can do, Penny doesn't change too much here, I don't think. Collapse Stadium doesn't change anything. Tord is really just at the mercy of Alex's hand right now, and it looks like we're all good.
Yeah, so we're going to see the usual thing here. We're going to see an energy onto each of these Pokemon, just making sure we get a little bit of damage there so you can move it over to the Arceus. You need to do it twice so you can move over 4 damage counters, and that would KO the Arceus. But I think we are about to head over to Alex and have a very quick turn as it goes. Tord's looking at his hand. He's having a little bit of a think.
Yeah, I think he knows. I think he knows how low odds
So
this
here
is
we
right
go,
now.
and then Alex just starts flicking through his hand. I think we're here, Joe. The Arceus goes into the discard pile. Drapion goes into the active. Alex is double-checking the weakness.
Are you weak to dark?
Yes, he is. Down comes Boss's orders, and Alex Schemanske breaks the curse and takes home the European International Championships.
Unbelievable series. We have been in for a treat here. Alex Schemanske overcoming the curse against Tord Reklev in the finals here, overcoming terrible prize cards. Alolan Vulpix V-Star locked away in that game 3 against the wall, against all odds, was still able to pull this one out.
Yeah, and we said it. The Alolan Vulpix being gone made the matchup harder. It made things more awkward. It did not make it some kind of weird auto loss. Although I hate to blame the final on prizes, but we need to really say this. That Power Pad being prized basically ran Tord out of attackers. By the time we got to the end of that game, Tord literally did not have enough attackers. And, you know, Alex did not have everything in that third game. It did not go perfectly. What Alex did do beautifully was just have attackers. Keep having Pokemon with enough energy to keep attacking, and that was all he needed then to bring it home. And I just love that moment at the end where he's like, because this is a classic me thing, just double check. It definitely is weak to dark, because if it's not weak to dark, this is about to be the biggest misplay I've ever made. But it was weak to dark.
Stunning. Amazing. I'm so happy for Alex as well. He's a fierce competitor, and to have lost in so many finals, I mean, and to still keep coming back, getting further and further, really just trying to crack it with this exceptional deck list. An amazing win there, and what a treat that was.
That was, I mean, we had an absolute treat of a top 4 yesterday, Joe, to finish off the broadcast, and we've come back to have an absolute treat of a final. Not every final ends up being a winner, unfortunately. Sometimes the matchups are a bit one-sided. That was not what we got to see today. We got to see a really good final between 2 really good players, and I loved in that game 3, both players basically went, well, my prizes are not doing me any favors, and we saw both players readjusting, rearranging. We saw Alex bench the Alolan Vulpix V in a cheeky like, I'm going to get this off prizes and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and that sort of bait actually really worked, because then Tord couldn't deal with Drapion. Drapion was actually the biggest threat at that moment, so just an amazing play from both players, and every game was so vastly different. I think they were adapting to different strategies throughout based on what was accessible to them, but also just based on the board state, and that's really impressive for both sides of things. So many different versatile attackers getting involved into the mix that we hadn't even considered at times, and amazing lines of play from both players. It was a nail-biter throughout.
Yeah, it was a very tense game. And, you know, you've got to kind of feel for Tord there when you're going like, right, if I just get Power Pad off these 2, oh, it's not Power Pad. And Alex, that first, you know, we saw the first deck search he goes through and he's like, it's game 3. Why does it have to be game 3 that this is prized? Unfortunately, wasn't